Hello and welcome. As you can see by the title of this slide, this here is about accounting, and it's an intro or thoughts on accounting. Right? This is going to be a relatively short video, just to give a basic grounding and understanding as to what it takes in order to work with accounting, whether it's actually financial accounting, managerial accounting, or for those who go on further, intermediate accounting, and so on and so forth. So what you're going to find is that there's going to be a common theme that I'll run through that seems to keep on popping up, but you'll get the idea when we go over these here points. Okay, so here's the points. All right. Okay, so thoughts about accounting, right? To do accounting, it's not about memorization, right? This is not American history or psychology or biology where you have to memorize the names of the 512 bones in the body, okay? That's not what accounting is, and that's not how you learn it. Accounting is about understanding concepts, and that's important, understanding concepts, okay? And applying that understanding, right? You're not going to be asked to memorize the concepts, right? But you will have to understand them. Okay, you have to do the work because it's not memorization. It requires that you do the work, and that means you will not find the answers word for word in the textbook, and you need to be able to do the homework problems. Okay, you're going in the textbook. It's going to present a concept and it's going to give you an example. All right, but when you get a new problem, all right, you can mimic it somewhat, but you can't follow it exactly. I hear it all the time from students, that they follow what was in the textbook and they didn't get the right answer. Well, that's because you can't follow it exactly. The problems are similar, right? But they're not always, they're not exactly the same. And this goes to this here fourth bullet point. No two sets of books are alike, but all are based upon the same concepts. To give an idea, let's say you have a car dealership on one side of the street and a car dealership on the other side of the street. Okay, all businesses follow generally accepted accounting principles, right? But when they're the both car dealerships, let's say one is a Ford and one is a Chevy dealership, right? Their financial statements are going to look very different, right? But they do things the same way because they're based upon the same concepts. But they have their own idiosyncrasies. There is no cookie cutter, explicit, exact, this is the way you do it, because business is business. It's very fluid, okay? All businesses do not run the same way. They have their own idiosyncrasies, and therefore, no two sets of books are going to be alike. Um, I, you know, in financial accounting, after you do the first 3 lessons, you're going to have a graded project. And I get emails from students, well, they don't know what to do, right? Well, what the issue here is when I looked at chapter 1, I realized that um, the way they're showing the information, they're showing the concepts, they're presenting everything that you need. Okay, but the way they show it is somewhat different than the way other businesses do things. In other words, it's not about what the form looks like, okay, as long as you have all the correct information. And so when students are doing the project, they're like, oh, okay, well, what do I do here? Because they're not looking at the same exact form. They should be thinking about the information that goes on the form, not what the form looks like. So no two sets of books are alike, but they're all based on the same concepts. Okay, and it's about processes, right? You understand the whole concept, but a lot of times you'll only use parts of the whole. Okay, you're not going to use the entire concept. And this goes back to the example in the textbook where the textbook will present you a concept and it'll give you an example. But then when you go to do a problem, right, and you're trying to mimic it exactly step by step out of the book, you're not going to get it because you're using parts of the concept. You're not using the entire concept step by step. Just a quick example would be like depreciation, right? There's, you're taught 4 methods of depreciation, the 4 common methods. But accountants can make up whatever depreciation that they want as long as they can justify it. So how do you say this is exactly the way depreciation should be taught in a textbook? You can't, because I don't follow those ways that are in a textbook, but the way I do depreciation follows generally accepted accounting principles. But so if you understand the concept of depreciation, it doesn't matter whether it's in the textbook or not. You should be able to work through it. It's thinking outside of the box. Anybody who's trying to follow word for word in a textbook is not going to get it. You have to be able to, think outside of that box. You don't use the whole it's like a toolbox. You have all of these tools in there, but do you use them all the time? No. Can use them all the time? Yeah. It all depends upon the situation. Okay. All right. So start with a foundation and build up from there. This is important because it starts from chapter 1. Okay. You have to understand and fully grasp the concepts from chapter 1 going forward, because if you don't, as this next bullet points out, you need to go back over what you missed, or it will jump up and bite you later on, right? The concepts are cumulative, right? It's not like in American history where you can study the American Revolution and take a test, and then when you go to study the Civil War, you can forget about the American Revolution, okay? It's more like, oh, well, what if I had a question that said, how does the economics of the American Revolution affect the Civil War? Well, now I need to remember, what happened in the American Revolution. And this is the same thing with accounting. You can't just read one chapter and get through it and forget it, because those fundamental concepts move forward. And if you don't get the fundamental concepts right, okay, then when you go to do something else, that misunderstanding, that lack of knowledge, or what you don't remember, starts out with a new concept being wrong. You can't do the problem. I see that happen in statistics a lot. Students learn about standard deviation in chapter 3, and then they forget about it. But when they hit chapter 7 and they have binomial distribution, the author talks about binomial distribution assuming that you understand how to work standard deviation. And students will then, want to quote unquote look exactly in the book, and they can't get it because they're failing to use the concept of standard deviation in order to produce the information to solve for binomial distributions. This is the same type of thing. You have to start, you build your foundation, but you can't forget about it, because everything ties together as you move forward. And if you're missing something, if you miss a test question and you don't understand how it's arrived at, you need to figure it out, or you need to have someone, help you understand it, because if you don't, it will jump up and bite you later on. Okay. I'm going to be producing a bunch of videos as going through the textbook. It's not going to, the videos are not going to replace what's in the textbook, which is what you're responsible for. All right. The videos will be just a different way of looking at some things. It'll address frequently asked questions that students have, what they seem to have a difficulty with, try to give a better thought process and a flow of things. But don't think to just watch these videos and that's going to get you through financial accounting. It's not. If all you're going to do is just watch these videos and then try to take the test, you're going to fail. Okay, because not all of the information from the textbook is going to be presented in the videos. I will make the series of videos, and these are good supplements, to augment your learning, but you're ultimately responsible for what's in the textbook. And that leaves me with the last issue here, which is, contact an instructor. I had a student today send me an email, and they wanted additional information as to where they can learn from, or where they can get a tutor from. Okay, well, your instructors here at Penn Foster are your tutors, right? When you're not understanding something in the textbook, okay, or you miss a homework problem and you don't understand how the answer is arrived at, and that's what you should be doing, is you try to work out the answer, And then when you look at the answer, if it's wrong, you have to try to figure out why the answer is what it is. And if you don't, then you need to be, contacting an instructor. And I understand that the community is that gives people a sense of community, and it's not to say that some students can't help some other students, understanding certain concepts by posting on the community, but you know, instructors teach a lot more than students, and we know, I sit here a lot of times and it's like I know what you're going to say next, and I know how to best address it because I've been doing it for so long. So it's like, as an example in martial arts, do you want to learn how to punch and kick from somebody who has a white belt or a green belt, or do you want to learn how to punch and kick from, somebody who has their black belt or is a master? Okay, it's the same thing. I mean, a punch and a kick is a punch and a kick, and both the white belt and the black belt punch and kicks. However, who has greater insight, and it's the same thing. So, if you're not understanding something in the textbook, you miss a homework problem that and you don't understand how the answer is arrived at, um, or you don't understand a process, feel free to, email or telephone an instructor, because we're here to help. Okay. So this is some thoughts about accounting, and as you'll see in the postings on the community, there will be a separate section on the left for financial accounting that I'm going to add more and more content to. I'm trying to keep it generic so that every time they change the textbook, I don't have to reproduce, 100 videos, okay? And because a lot of concepts and ideas are basically the same. I mean, a debit is a debit, a credit is a credit. So um, that information will be there. So as an augment to your studies of the textbook, frequently check out these additional videos. All right. And if you have any problems, give us a call. All right. Thanks and have a great day.